Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris, and today we're going to be taking an early look at the brand new LEGO Ideas Viking Village, coming very soon. Paying homage to the original Vikings 2006 theme, this is a reimagining of some classic LEGO sets with a brand new twist on it, because this is really the first time we've gotten a semi-realistic LEGO Viking Village in LEGO form pretty much ever, and this is a very exciting set because of that. The Viking Village is the 51st LEGO Idea set, coming with 4 minifigures, and is a reimagining of the Viking Village project, which was actually submitted 2 times and gained 10,000 supporters twice for LEGO Ideas. One of the most interesting things about the set is that the set actually came to be because of a fan vote. Target x LEGO put out a vote to essentially pick one of their special exclusive idea sets, where in the US, this will be sold exclusively at Target as well as LEGO stores, and basically fans voted for the Viking Village to be that set, which was really no surprise to anyone because this was a really highly anticipated set, and so that's really how this came to be. I am so glad that this actually was produced. This is the one I voted for to be made into a set, so I cannot wait to showcase it with all of you. And so, without further ado, let's jump right into our review of the brand new Viking Village. Alright, so this is the LEGO Ideas Viking Village. It retails for $130 US, comes with 4 unique minifigures, although some of the torsos are reused from the Creator 3-in-1 Viking ship, and will release early in September. Now, all the minifigures are unique, sporting brand new printed shields and accessories, and the entire build as a whole is somewhat modular, which means you can actually break it up into a couple of different chunks, even though some of the pieces may actually come off while you are separating this out. You can separate out all of the different buildings into different chunks to be able to reorganize the way that you want the buildings to be built. The way the manual is split up is that you can actually choose to build each one of them individually. So you could technically build this with 2 other friends, which is a really nice initiative that LEGO has been doing for a lot of their modern sets, allowing you to build sets with friends. Now, in case people are curious, yes, it is possible, as you can see, to clip these on to actually allow it to be oriented a different way. You do have to be a little bit careful with the way the clips are attached, because it's not quite necessarily meant to be rearranged like this, but you can get creative with the layout and really try to play around with how you want the set to look. But really, there's only one quote-unquote presentation way that it's supposed to be showcased, and that is this right here. And to be honest, I do kind of question why they even made it able to split apart if you're not really going to do much with these splitting apart components anyways. Still, that being said, this is a really great looking village all around, and I really do like how it kind of tells a story in the presentation of the set. There is a wooden dock which leads to a dirt pathway over here. There is a bridge that can cross from this tower to the next. Doors can open with access from one tower to another, and everything feels like it is actually very realistically laid out. And this is truly unlike any LEGO set that we've gotten before. For the original LEGO Vikings line in 2006, we did get a Vikings fort, although that was a lot more similar to the Fort Lego Rado from the Western line, which was very much just a circular, round kind of log fort. This feels more realistic in the terms of how the buildings are designed, especially with the architecture of the buildings themselves. I visited Scandinavia a lot of times, and this really does look like some of the buildings that you would see in some historical heritage sites there, which is really, really cool. Now, each of the buildings are split up into different focus points, so you have a blacksmith shop over here, you have a main dining hall and sort of throne area inside the main building here, and here you have a lookout tower as well as a bit of a storeroom for some food. Now, all of these really come together to paint a particular story, because each of the minifigures actually corresponds to something that you would see them doing in each of the different buildings. There is a blacksmith, there's an archer for the lookout tower, there is, I guess, a king or leader of the Vikings who's a little bit more armored up than the rest, and then there's a standard warrior who joins them as well. And altogether, it really paints a fully complete picture of a Viking village. For $130, would I have preferred to see maybe more minifigures? Absolutely. 4 does seem a little bit sparse for a village, especially for a set of this size. I'm used to getting a ton of minifigures in sets like this. For instance, the recently released El Dorado Fortress, which was a remake of a classic LEGO Pirates Imperial set, had a ton of minifigures, and getting only 4 Vikings is a little bit disappointing, but I definitely understand the trade-offs. They do all have unique leg prints which were made for the set. They have new accessories and new printed shields, even a new print for Thor's hammer. So I do understand that they were really trying to optimize the budget by making each and every one of the figures feel very special, even though I do feel that maybe they should have included at least a couple more. Now, speaking of the figures, I actually do want to start off by taking a look at them because I'm sure a lot of people are curious about how the figures look, and that way they can be out of the way while we actually take a look at the set themselves. So, first off, I'm going to start off with this leader or king Viking here. One thing I really do want to point out is that the shields are printed, which are references to the 2006 LEGO Vikings line, which is really cool to see that as a reference. It was very strange in the instruction manual. There was actually an error in the instruction manual that stated that this is a reference to the 1990s Viking theme. There is no 1990s Viking theme. The only LEGO Viking theme that there ever was came out in 2006, and also the set that they reference, which was the Viking ship versus the Midgard Serpent, they also say that came out in the 1990s, which I thought was really weird because it came out in 2006, so kind of a weird thing for the instruction manual to say, but otherwise it is a really nice reference for the minifigure itself. This is just utilizing some of the torsos we've seen before, but it does come with brand new printed legs, which look fantastic. Love the silver detail on that. I also really like the head. It's not new for this character, but it really does fit a Viking leader very well, and you can see that's what the back of the torso looks like. Now, the instruction manual did actually specifically state they were not trying to be historically accurate here. Instead, they were trying to just portray the kind of more common social perception of Vikings, which is why they have the horns, which did not exist whatsoever in actual history, but they included them in this set because, you know what, when you think of Vikings, you think of the helmets with horns, and it would be weird if they didn't include it. Moving onwards, we have another character here sporting a brand new head, a brand new torso, and brand new legs. This one actually is one of the most kitted out of all of them. It is a really cool looking Viking figure complete with special metallic detail for the legs here. I love the artwork and design for the torso itself with even a symbol or rune written on the potion bottle itself, and the head is a really nice and useful one with metallic blue paint on the sides. The only thing I will state is that I do kind of wish that this head was maybe a bit more of a serious or angry expression. I feel like a smiling expression is great, but being that the helmet only covers half the back of the head, they were not able to include an alternate face for this minifigure, and so you're kind of just stuck with the smiling face, which I feel isn't quite appropriate for all scenarios, and especially for people wanting to make historical Viking stuff. I feel like maybe an angry face or even just a serious face would be a lot more useful. That being said, I do again love the print on the torso, especially with the elk or deer logo on the back. That is so cool how they actually have that on the cloth print back there. I think that is a really nice touch, and it's kind of a shame that it is covered up by the quiver because that is probably one of my favorite details out of all these figures, and you can't even see it, although of course you can use the torso for other purposes if you want. Moving onwards, we have the blacksmith here. This introduces a brand new print for Thor's hammer. This is not the first time it's been printed. We actually saw it printed a couple of times before, once for the medieval dwarf in the collectible minifigure series, as well as reprinted with the exact same print but in a different color for the LEGO Build-A-Minifigure stations. But this one actually features some Norse Viking runes, so that is really cool to see that written on the hammer itself. Also, love the detail included on the torso for the blacksmith. The dark red looks fantastic. The head is utilizing a headband, which I believe we have seen before. Could be wrong on that one, but it is a nice looking head regardless, and they reused the autumn hairpiece from LEGO Friends, which released earlier this year, in a braid, which actually is a really nice design and fits a Viking very well. Also gotta love the print on the back of the torso with hammers and Viking horns. That feels like a very classic Viking look and feel to me, and I do really like how the print on that torso turned out. Lastly, we have this generic warrior figure here. Torso is just reused from stuff we've seen before, but the legs are brand new. I really do like this leg print with the silver printing and chainmail. That shield is a new print as well, and while the hairpiece isn't new, it is new in this color, and it is really nice to get the braided hairpiece in this color because it's just a really useful piece for Vikings in general, and I definitely feel like it fits the characters very well. Overall, I am pretty happy with the minifigure lineup. I think it is a pretty solid lineup, all things considered. All the minifigures have unique leg prints, many of them also have unique torso prints, and some even have unique head prints. I really just do wish that they did include a few more figures, because for $130, again, 4 figures does feel a little disappointing to me. I was really hoping that when they announced a Viking Village, we would see like 5 or 6 Vikings. Sure, gone are the days that we would get like 20 Vikings in one set like we did in some of the 2006 Viking sets, like the large catapult that they did, but this is still not bad. I mean, I still do like the figures, just wish they had a little bit more. Moving on though, we can now turn our attention to the build itself, and what I'm going to do is actually, now that we've already seen the entire build, moving all around in all directions, I'm going to split the build up into the 3 components, so I can actually showcase what it looks like for each of the individual buildings. Again, if you notice, when splitting it up, it is a little bit annoying because sometimes these clip pieces just pull themselves out of their sockets here. Definitely not super ideal, but I do understand why they did that in terms of just being able to make it detach. But I'm going to set these parts aside and start off with the first and smallest building, which is the blacksmith shop right here. Now the blacksmith shop is a really nicely built building. It kind of is just a shed, but I do love the building techniques on it. This is a reference to the original LEGO Vikings ship versus the Midgard Serpent logo that was featured on the sale of the original 2006 LEGO Viking set, which is so cool to see printed on a Nexo tile. That is easily one of my favorite prints to come out of the set. Really do love that one. Moving onwards from this runestone here, we have a lot of nice details on the actual rockwork used for the shore of the island itself. I do really like how this does paint a picture of the Viking village being situated by the shore. You even have the roots of the trees sticking out of the rocks there, which look fantastic. Moving alongside here, you have a recolor of the LEGO Lord of the Rings Rivendell fern element in white to use for snow capping on the trees, which is a really nice recolor of that already very versatile and fantastic piece. And on the inside, there's even a bit of a play function where, as you can see right here, as you press this lever, the flames actually go upwards, so you can actually stoke the fire like so, which is a really nice touch. Inside are some Viking helmets. There is one of the plain, unprinted LEGO Vikings collectible minifigure helmets, which surprisingly isn't even used by any of the figures in this set. It is a more realistic Viking helmet compared to the more stylized or fantasy kind of pop culture Vikings that we actually did get in the set. So I do like how they did include the helmet if you do want to use it. That is a really nice plain gunmetal gray version of it. And otherwise, that's the blacksmith shop. It is super simple. You can easily remove the roof for access for the minifigures. It's not even actually attached, that just comes right off. So, if you want to see a better look at the inside, you can see what that looks like right here. With that helmet, there is a plain unprinted shield. Would have been nice to get an actual copy of the other printed shields in the set. We do get double copies of the two unique ones, but it would have been nice to get a third or maybe even a different print. But I do understand they wanted to kind of showcase this is a work in progress, so I guess to that extent it makes sense. Otherwise, not much I can say about the interior of this building, so now we can move on to some of the other buildings in this set. Next up, we are going to take a look at this one last because it is the most substantial building, and quickly move on to one of the largest chunks of the actual set itself, which is this piece right here. So this is part of the watchtower and the main island. You can see that there is actually a lot going on in this particular tall tower of the set itself. One thing I really want to point out, love the way the stairs technique is done here. Utilizing studs on the side pieces looks fantastic. Absolutely phenomenal building techniques being used here to really get a nicely, almost organic style of stairs sticking out of the side of the mountain. You've got nice rocks going across these sides here, wooden planks. Also, a brand new print being utilized on the barrel covers here. Those are just simple 2x2 circular pieces, but that is again referencing the original Vikings 2006 logo, so that is so cool to get 2 copies of that print. And as you rotate this around the back, you can notice just absolutely fantastic rock work being done, almost mock quality rock work being done here. Stuff like this we saw in the Rivendell set and whatnot, but obviously it is really cool to get this level of detail in an Ideas set where it really feels like this is a very organic structure. One thing I will note is that it is really easy to knock these off. Like, these little pegs just keep falling off no matter what I do. But otherwise, it is a pretty sturdy set, and there is a bit of a cave hidden away where you can maybe stash some treasure inside. Nothing particularly of note inside the cave, although they did showcase it on the box art as just another place to pose your minifigures. Now moving on upwards, you can see the architecture for this building right here. I do really like how this piece is done for the roofs. You can see these kind of slightly newer slope pieces being utilized for the triangular shapes of the roof, and the brand new LEGO action figure mech finger elements being used in brown here for sides of the roofing itself, really just adding on to that wooden detail. The door is using a couple of Harry Potter wands as the struts on the door itself, which look absolutely fantastic. And you can open that up. Not much to go for the interior here. Honestly, it really is just a dark orange pumpkin. That is not orange, that's dark orange actually, which is pretty interesting seeing that be included in that color. And then you can just go up the ladder to actually make your way to the top tower. I do really like how they did think about accessibility for minifigures when building this. It is not impossible for you to be able to just teleport a minifigure to the top. They really did try to make this such that you could have a journey of a minifigure follow from top to bottom, climb up the ladder, and then go across the bridge. Speaking of new prints, there is another new print that is used a ton of times in the set, and that is this one right here. It is a reference to an original print that we got in, again, the 2006 Vikings line. We got a 1x4 tile, very similar to this, and they've just kind of modernized the print and made it feel a little bit more unique in terms of the detail. From there, you move across the rope bridge, which looks really great. I do like the utilization of these slightly newer rubber pieces here, which just attach onto Ninjago's skeleton arms and then attach onto these pieces for the actual bridge itself. It seems like a bit of a rickety bridge, but it definitely does fit the look and feel of this set. And then you have your archer atop the watchtower here, and I do like how they included another copy of the shield, which I just think is a really nice touch, and I do love that they included 2 copies of each of the new printed shields, because those new printed shields are awesome. So you've got some food, you've got some drinks, and pretty much just everything you would need for a village. Setting this part aside, though, we can now take a look at the final building, which is kind of the main hall. It is a bit of a smaller build than what we just looked at, which was the tall tower, but this is the largest building in the set itself, as it should be, because it is kind of the grand dining hall for the Vikings. Going around the external look and feel of the building first, you can appreciate the amount of architectural detail they factored in. Some of it feels very standard, and I do like how they used this texture for the building, again, harkening back to the original Viking fortress, which was a really great thing to see for the original Vikings line. But then you have a lot of more modern and unique building techniques being used, such as for the roof here. You've got some studs on the side being utilized for the struts on the wood on the side here. And then I also love that this is set in the snow, so it's kind of snowing on this Viking village as well. You've got clumps of snow scattered throughout the set, which really just adds a lot to the flavor and storytelling of the scene. Now, the entire roof lifts off. Before we lift it off, I do want to make one note of one of the coolest building techniques that I witnessed in the set, and that is for the golden pieces right here. They have reused the LEGO Ninjago Dragon's Rising Ninja Dragon Form Armor, a piece that I never thought would be reused outside of Ninjago, but they have reused these pieces. You can barely tell it's those pieces, as simply just ornamental golden designs on the building itself. Now that is a nice parts usage right there. Moving onwards though, let's take a look at the inside of the building. You can of course open the door up should you see fit, let your guests inside, and once you go on the inside here, there are a lot of really nice details. There's a brick-built chair, kind of like a throne, with some banners on this side, so you've got some nice detail there. You have another one of those printed shields, which is absolutely fantastic to be able to see another copy of those shields. You have an area to cook, and you have some chicken and just some serving area for the food. Overall, just a really fantastic interior. One of the things I do wish is that maybe it would have been nice if there was more maybe seating area, but I guess the Vikings are just meant to kind of sit around the floor, around the fire. Again, it is a pretty rudimentary type of setup for the Vikings themselves, so I guess that sort of makes sense. And the throne is really nice, using the newer, for this year, finger elements, this time to make up the ornate details of the throne, which is, again, a really nice parts usage. Closing this up, I think it's now time to take a look at the Viking Village as a whole and share really my holistic thoughts on this set as a set in general, because I definitely have at least a couple of mixed feelings on this one. So, resetting the Viking Village back to its full form, I clearly really like the set, and I do think it is genuinely a really solid build. I do like the amount of detail included. The minifigures are great. Yeah, I wish there could be more, but I do like the minifigures, and overall my feelings are generally very positive on the set itself. The only thing is that for $130, I guess it is fair if you look at it from a price per part standpoint, if you look at it in terms of the value for what you get in front of you. I don't know if I'm feeling 130 specifically, and maybe that's just how I feel in the moment. My feelings on this might change, but I definitely do feel like this is a really solid build. There are obviously building techniques that do feel a little bit more simple and rudimentary. There are also building techniques which feel very similar to the previously released El Dorado Fortress, which just came out, which again is not a bad thing, but it does feel maybe a little bit repetitive in terms of a medieval style of LEGO building coming out across 2 different eras. But obviously, I mean, none of these are really medieval. Like, this is a Norse town for Vikings, or I guess a fictionalized fantasy version. The other one was more of a Spanish-style fort, but the whole thing centered on an island with water definitely feels a little reminiscent of that set. And overall, I do really like the building techniques. There are some parts where I feel like maybe I was expecting it to be even fancier in terms of building techniques. Like, don't get me wrong, this is a great build, but for some parts of it, I guess when I first saw it unveiled, I was thinking they might go a little bit crazier or make this building a little bit bigger.
So for $130, I definitely feel like it's okay value. Is it as good value as, say, the Medieval Blacksmith? Definitely not. But for $130, I would say it is fair value, and I do really like this set, and I like that LEGO is doing a Vikings Village. I think it's just that my expectations for this set were sky high because I voted for this set. I wanted to see this made. When they put out the target vote, this was probably the #1 set I was the most excited for. And now that it's in my hands, I'm like, yeah, this is really cool, really great. But I don't know. I feel like maybe it could have been a little bit bigger, maybe even a little bit more extravagant, but it is still a really fantastic set, and is easily one of my favorite LEGO Ideas sets. I mean, LEGO Ideas always hits it out of the park, and this is absolutely fantastic. I just can't quite put my finger on what I feel like maybe something is missing from it, like maybe another small building. I think what's really missing is maybe a little dragon. Like, I think a little dragon, even just like this big, like a small Ninjago-style dragon, or even like a little boat, which was proposed in the second revision of the idea for the set, those would have felt like the scene was really complete to me, but now this just makes me want more LEGO Viking sets. And maybe that's not a bad thing. Like, I now want LEGO to put out Vikings dragons, a Vikings boat to go alongside this, and maybe if this set does well enough, they will consider that. But as of right now, this is just a one-off, and I'm so curious to hear what people think of the set down in the comments below. That about sums up our review of the Viking Village. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed taking a look at this brand new early LEGO set.
Alright, and with that, we have summed up our look at the brand new Viking Village from LEGO Ideas. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of the set? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Will you be picking up this set when it releases? I definitely would have gotten this regardless, even if LEGO didn't send it to me, because this was a phenomenal build. Loved putting it together, and it's so cool to actually get a Viking Village set from LEGO. That's all for this review. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon, and bye for now.